The Galactic Council's meeting chamber hummed with the satisfied chittering of 1,000 species, all celebrating the same glorious achievement. Finally, after 3 million years of careful planning, they had done it. They had completely erased humanity from existence. Well, not physically erased, mind you. That would have been messy, illegal, and frankly, beneath their refined sensibilities. No, they had done something far more elegant. They had simply edited them out of the historical record. Every database, every archive, every mention of those troublesome bipedal mammals had been systematically deleted from the galactic network. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted biomass, proclaimed High Counselor Vex Thul, his 12 eye stalks swiveling with obvious pride. Today marks the end of the most persistent headache in our collective memory. No more surprise human colonies appearing where they shouldn't be. No more humans somehow jury-rigging impossible solutions to unsolvable problems. No more humans being human. The chamber erupted in applause, tentacles slapping together, mandibles clicking in harmony, and various species producing their equivalent of cheers. Ambassador Clit Nake, a gelatinous blob from the Andorian system, quivered with what could generously be called joy. Finally, Klitnak bubbled through his translator. No more humans showing up with their ridiculous hold my beer philosophy and accidentally solving millennium-old conflicts by being too stupid to realize they were impossible. The crowd laughed, remembering the infamous Rigel 7 incident where a human named Jake Thompson had ended a 1,000-year war by challenging both sides to a drinking contest. The war had ended when everyone was too hungover to remember what they were fighting about. And no more humans adopting our unwanted species as pets, added Counselor Zix Prime, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated extreme relief. Do you know how embarrassing it was when they started breeding Vorthakian death wasps as therapy animals? More laughter rippled through the chamber. The Vorthakian death wasps had indeed become surprisingly popular among human children after someone named Maria Santos had figured out they just needed proper training and regular belly rubs. But surely, interjected a nervous voice from the back, surely they'll notice that all records of their history have vanished. High Counselor Vex Thul's eye stalk swiveled toward the speaker, a young Kleptari intern whose spots were pale with anxiety. Oh, my dear, naive little creature, that's the beauty of it. Without access to the galactic network, how could they possibly know what they've lost? They'll never even realize they've been erased. The council erupted in laughter again, and the meeting dissolved into celebrations that would last for weeks. They were, as it turned out, spectacularly wrong. The first sign of trouble came exactly 73 days later, when Trade Minister Gorthviel received a transmission from the Outer Rim. His 4 eyes nearly popped out of his skull as he read the message header. New Galactic Historical Database, now with 47% more accuracy. Courtesy of the Terran Historical Preservation Society. What the flaming nebulas? Gorthviel muttered, his claws clicking nervously on his desk. He opened the file, and his primary heart stopped beating for a full 30 seconds. It was humanity's entire history. All of it, but not just their history as they had known it. This was their history as written by humans, for humans, with the kind of creative interpretation that only a species capable of turning duct tape into a legitimate engineering solution could manage. According to the Terran Historical Database, humans hadn't just been members of the galactic community. Oh no. They had been the founding members. The ones who had discovered faster-than-light travel, established the first interstellar trade routes, and personally welcomed every other species into the fold with a warm smile and a firm handshake. This is impossible, Gorthviel whispered, scrolling through entry after entry. It says here that humans invented the Universal Translator in 2157 by a woman named Dr. Lisa Park, who was tired of pointing at things and hoping for the best. But we know the Volthrani developed that technology. He kept reading, his sense of reality crumbling with each line. According to this database, the Volthrani had actually been a primitive species discovered by human explorers in 2203. The humans had taught them language, science, and proper table manners before helping them achieve spaceflight. His communication console chimed with an incoming message, then another. then 50 more in rapid succession. Trade ministers, ambassadors, and government officials from across the galaxy were all receiving the same database, all accompanied by cheerful messages like, "Hey there. Noticed you guys lost some historical records. No worries. Happens to the best of us. We made backups. You're welcome." The humans. Gorth VL activated his emergency line to the High Council, his voice cracking with panic. "Sir, we have a problem. A big problem. The humans, they're rewriting history. Impossible," came Vexthol's dismissive reply. "They don't have access to the galactic network. They can't distribute anything." "Sir, with respect, they're doing it anyway. They're sending physical copies by courier ship to every government in the galaxy. And sir, people are believing it." There was a long pause. "What do you mean, people are believing it?" Gorth Vel pulled up another report, his hands shaking. "The Zephyrian Empire just sent a formal apology to Earth for forgetting the crucial role humans played in ending the cosmic dark ages. The Hive Collective is requesting permission to send a delegation to thank humanity for teaching them the sacred art of proper hexagonal construction." The line went dead. Within hours, the Galactic Council had reconvened in emergency session. The chamber that had been filled with celebration just 2 months prior now buzzed with confusion and barely controlled panic. "How?" demanded Counselor Zix Prime, her crystalline form flickering with agitated colors. "How are they distributing this information without network access?" Intelligence Director Quinn Yak, a spider-like creature with far too many eyes, scuttled forward with his report. "They're using courier ships, sir. Thousands of them. Small, fast vessels piloted by humans who seem to think this is all some kind of elaborate prank. They're calling it Operation Wikipedia." "Wikipedia?" several counselors asked simultaneously. "Apparently, it's a reference to some ancient human information sharing protocol. The pilots keep laughing about something called citation needed and making jokes about reliable sources." High Counselor Vexthol's eye stalks drooped with defeat. "Show me the worst of it." Quinn Yak activated the main display, and the chamber fell silent. On screen was a historical entry titled, "The Great Galactic Barbecue of 2847, How Humanity United the Galaxy Through the Power of Grilled Meat." According to this, Quinn Yak read in a hollow voice, "Humans ended the 1,000-year war by inviting all faction leaders to something called a backyard barbecue hosted by a man named Bob Williams in his garden in suburban Cleveland. The war ended when everyone realized they were too busy enjoying properly seasoned ribs to remember why they were fighting." The chamber erupted in outraged chittering and clicking. "But the 1,000-year war ended due to the Treaty of Vex Prima," shouted Ambassador Clit Neke. "Yes, well, according to the humans, the Treaty of Vex Prima was actually signed at Bob Williams' picnic table, right next to the potato salad. They have pictures. Pictures can be faked, true, but they've also provided witness testimonies from 17 different species, all confirming they were there and that Bob's barbecue sauce was surprisingly addictive and worth ending a war for." Counselor Zix Prime's form was now strobing angry reds and oranges. "This is preposterous. We have official records." "Actually," Quinn Yak said quietly, "we don't. Remember? We deleted them all when we erased humanity from the database." The silence that followed was deafening. "So," Vexthol said slowly, "you're telling me that by erasing all records of human involvement in galactic history, we've left ourselves with no way to prove that their version is wrong?" That's exactly what I'm telling you, sir." The panic that followed was immediate and comprehensive. Within minutes, every species in the council was frantically searching their own private archives, trying to find any documentation that could contradict the human version of events. But here was the problem. Most galactic governments had long ago standardized on the Galactic Council's central database. Why maintain expensive local archives when you could just access the universal one? "Sir," came another voice from the intelligence section, "we're receiving reports that the humans are already establishing what they're calling cultural exchange centers throughout the galaxy. They're offering to help other species rediscover their shared history with humanity. And people are accepting?" "Sir, is yo." The Zygnari Collective just officially declared next Tuesday Human Appreciation Day to commemorate the time humans allegedly taught them how to properly ferment their ceremonial algae. Vexthul felt something that might have been a headache forming behind all 12 of his eye stalks. Do the humans even know what ceremonial algae is, according to their records, sir? It was actually a human named Steve Martinez who invented the fermentation process in 2234 when he got bored and decided to see what would happen if you left pond scum in a jar for 6 months. And the Zygnari believe this? Sir, they've sent a formal request asking if Steve Martinez is still alive so they can give him an honorary doctorate in advanced algae studies. As reports continued pouring in from across the galaxy, a horrible truth began to dawn on the assembled council members. The humans weren't just rewriting history. They were doing it so convincingly, with such attention to detail and such apparent sincerity, that entire civilizations were beginning to believe it. How are they making this so believable? Demanded Klitnake. Quinyak pulled up another report. They're using something they call human logic, sir. For every historical claim, they provide a plausible explanation that sounds just crazy enough to be true. For instance, they claim that first contact with the Rigelians happened because a human cargo pilot named Eddie Murphy took a wrong turn near Alpha Centauri and decided to stop and ask for directions. That's ridiculous. Maybe, but they've provided Captain Murphy's log entries, fuel receipts from the Rigelian space station, and a sworn statement from Murphy saying he was just trying to find the nearest space truck stop because he really needed to use the bathroom. The truly terrifying part was becoming clear. The humans had not just invented a fake history. They had invented a believable fake history, complete with documentation, witness statements, and the kind of mundane, embarrassing details that made it all seem authentic. And without their own records to contradict it, the galactic community was beginning to accept the human version as fact. Sir. Dasigtious, came yet another report. The humans have just announced the establishment of the Galactic Truth and Reconciliation Commission to help other species recover from the trauma of having their shared history temporarily misplaced. They're offering free therapy sessions and complimentary snacks. Vexthul's eye stalks began to twitch uncontrollably. Free snacks? Mess, yes sir. Apparently something called chocolate chip cookies and coffee. Early reports suggest they're surprisingly effective at improving interspecies relations. As the emergency session continued into its 6th hour, one fact became increasingly clear: humanity had done the impossible. They had been completely erased from galactic history, and in response they had simply written themselves back in as the heroes of their own story. And somehow, impossibly, it was working. 3 weeks after the emergency session, High Counselor Vexthul sat in his private office, staring at a small plate containing what humans called chocolate chip cookies. His assistant had brought them from the newly established Human Cultural Center on Level 7, claiming they were diplomatic gifts and surprisingly addictive. He picked one up with his smallest manipulator claw, examining it suspiciously. It looked harmless enough. Just a small brown disc with darker spots. How dangerous could it be? 20 minutes later, Vexthul was on his 4th cookie and seriously considering surrendering the entire galaxy to humanity if it meant a steady supply of these miraculous food items. His communication console buzzed with an incoming priority message. With crumb-covered claws, he activated the display to find the face of Ambassador Klitnek, whose gelatinous form was quivering with what appeared to be excitement. Vexthul. Klitnek bubbled through the translator. You have to see this. The humans just released something called Volume 2. The Galactic Adventures continue. It's incredible. What now? Vexthul groaned, reaching for another cookie despite himself. They've documented the formation of the Galactic Olympics, apparently. It was started in 2445 by a human named Tommy Peterson who was bored on a Tuesday and thought it would be fun to see if anyone else wanted to have a friendly competition. Vexthul nearly choked on his cookie. The Galactic Olympics were established by the Treaty of Athletic Cooperation in 2445. It took 3 years of negotiations. Yes, well, According to the humans, those 3 years of negotiations were actually just Tommy Peterson trying to explain the rules of something called Capture the Flag to increasingly confused alien diplomats. They have video footage. Video footage of what? Tommy Peterson demonstrating Capture the Flag to a group of Vorthakian ambassadors in what appears to be a parking lot behind a shopping mall. The Vorthakians look completely bewildered, but they're nodding politely and taking notes. Vexthul felt his remaining eye stalks beginning to droop. Please tell me people aren't believing this, sir. The Vorthakian Empire just officially declared Tommy Peterson a champion of interstellar sportsmanship and erected a statue of him in their capital city. It's 40 feet tall and shows him holding a flag while grinning. The communication console exploded with incoming messages. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, each more impossible than the last. The humans had apparently documented their role in establishing the Galactic Peace Corps, the Universal Food Safety Standards, and something called the Intergalactic Dad Joke Exchange Program. Sir. Sir. Came another voice, this time from Intelligence Director Quinn Yak. We're receiving reports that Earth has established what they're calling the Bureau of Cosmic Paperwork Reduction. They're claiming that most galactic bureaucracy is unnecessarily complicated and offering to help streamline government processes across the galaxy. Streamline how? By eliminating what they call stupid forms and replacing them with what they call common sense. Early reports suggest their methods are effective. Vexthul's 12 eye stalks focused on the screen with laser intensity. Define effective. Define effective. The Regelian Trade Authority reduced their import approval process from 47 forms down to 3 questions. What is it? Where is it going? And will it explode? Processing time has decreased from 6 months to 20 minutes. That's actually not terrible, sir. The Zephyrian tax code, which previously required 17 different degrees to understand, that has been replaced with a single page that begins with the words "pay your fair share. Don't be a jerk about it. And here's a calculator if you need help with math." Vexthul found himself reaching for another cookie. What's the reaction? Widespread celebration, sir. Several governments are requesting human consultants to help simplify their legal systems. The humans are calling it Operation. Why is this so complicated? As the reports continued, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. The humans weren't just rewriting history. They were actively improving galactic civilization while claiming they had always been doing so. Every human intervention was being presented as a rediscovered historical collaboration. Sir. Quinyak continued, the humans have just announced the discovery of something they call the Lost Archives of Cooperative Awesomeness. According to them, it's a collection of documents proving that humanity and the Galactic Council have been working together for centuries to solve problems through what they call applied common sense and snacks. Snacks again? Yes, sir. Apparently, most major galactic treaties were negotiated over shared meals. The Treaty of Vex Prima was allegedly signed during a potluck dinner hosted by the entire human colony of New Wisconsin, and with each participating species bringing a traditional dish to share. Vexthul pulled up the human documentation on his screen. Sure enough, there were detailed records of the Great Galactic Potluck of 2847, complete with recipes, dietary restriction accommodations, and testimonials from various ambassadors praising something called Aunt Martha's 7-layer dip. They even have nutritional information, he muttered in amazement. Sir, there's more. The humans claim that the Galactic Environmental Protection Accords were actually inspired by a human child named Sally Parker, who wrote a school report titled "Why Planets Are Cool and We Should Keep Them Nice." They've provided the original report, complete with crayon drawings and a gold star sticker from her teacher. Despite himself, Vexthul found the crayon drawings oddly compelling. Little Sally had drawn various alien species holding hands around a smiling planet, with the words "Save the Space" written in uneven block letters across the top. Are people buying this? Sir, the Galactic Environmental Council just voted unanimously to adopt Sally Parker's report as their official mission statement. They're calling it the most profound environmental document in galactic history and requesting permission to translate it into all known languages. At this point, Vexthul abandoned all pretense and began eating cookies directly from the plate while reviewing the flood of reports. The humans had documented their alleged involvement in the creation of the Galactic Emergency Response Network, claiming it started when a human named Captain Janet O'Brien got tired of rescue ships getting lost and decided to make a really good map with clear directions and maybe some landmarks. The Galactic Medical Exchange Program had supposedly been founded by Dr. Michael Torres, who noticed that different species had different approaches to healing and thought it would be pretty neat if everyone shared their knowledge. The humans had provided his original proposal, written on what appeared to be a napkin from a diner called Mel's All-Night Eatery. Sir, Quinyak reported, we're receiving confirmation that the humans have established historical accuracy centers on every major trade route. They're offering free tours of their rediscovered archives and providing complimentary refreshments to visitors. What kind of refreshments? Coffee, sir. Something called really good coffee that's apparently different from regular coffee in ways that no one can adequately explain, but everyone agrees is significant. Vexthul made a note to investigate this really good coffee immediately. The final blow came when Ambassador Klitnak transmitted the humans' latest announcement, the establishment of the Galactic Council Advisory Board on making things less complicated, with humanity offering to serve as permanent consultants on the grounds that they had a lot of experience fixing things that seemed impossible until someone tried the obvious solution. A solution. They're not just rewriting history, Vexthul realized with growing horror. They're positioning themselves as indispensable advisors for the future. Yes, sir. And sir, it's working. The Andromedan Collective just formally requested human assistance with their population housing crisis. Apparently, the humans suggested something called building more houses, and the Andromedans are hailing it as a breakthrough in urban planning theory. That evening, Vexthul called an emergency meeting of the Inner Council. The 5 most senior members of the Galactic Council gathered in his private chambers, each looking more defeated than the last. Colleagues, he began, gesturing with a cookie for emphasis, we face an unprecedented situation. We attempted to erase humanity from history, and they have responded by writing themselves in as the protagonists of galactic civilization. But more than that, they're actually making things better while they do it. Counselor Zix Prime's crystalline form flickered through several colors of confusion. I don't understand how this happened. We're supposed to be the advanced species here. We have technology they can't even comprehend. How are they outsmarting us? Because came a new voice from the chamber's entrance. You forgot the most important rule about humans. Every head, eye stalk, and optical sensor turned toward the speaker. Standing in the doorway was a human woman, middle-aged, wearing what appeared to be a comfortable sweater and holding a steaming mug of coffee. Who are you? Demanded Vexthul, his claws instinctively reaching for the security alert. Dr. Rebecca Hayes, director of the Terran Historical Preservation Society. And before you hit that alarm, I brought coffee. She held up a thermal carafe. The really good kind. Despite every protocol in the book, Vexthul found himself genuinely curious about this really good coffee. Dr. Hayes settled into an empty chair without invitation, took a sip from her mug, and smiled. The rule you forgot is simple. Humans don't give up, ever. You erased us from your history books? Fine. We'll write our own, and we'll make them so much more interesting than yours that everyone will prefer our version. But your version is fiction, protested Counselor Zix Prime. Is it? Dr. Hayes asked mildly. Steve Martinez really did invent that algae fermentation process, just not when we said he did. Tommy Peterson actually did start an interspecies sports league in his backyard, though it was more of a neighborhood thing than a galactic event. And Sally Parker really did write that environmental report, even if it was just for 3rd grade. The council members exchanged glances. The thing is, Doctor. Hayes continued, humans have always been good at taking small, true things and scaling them up until they become big, true things. You deleted our records? So we looked at what we were actually doing, imagined what we could have been doing. relaxed and presented it as what we were always doing. The best part is, now that everyone believes we were always the helpful ones, we actually have to live up to that reputation. So you're making it real, Vexthal said slowly. Exactly. Bob Williams really is planning a galactic barbecue next summer. Captain Eddie Murphy has volunteered to personally deliver aid supplies to any system that needs them. And Sally Parker, who's now 37 and works as an environmental engineer, has agreed to head up the new Galactic Environmental Task Force. Dr. Hayes stood up, finished her coffee, and smiled. You tried to erase us from history. Instead, you gave us the opportunity to write ourselves into the future. And honestly, we're having a lot more fun this way. She paused at the door. Oh, and by the way, we're hosting a galaxy-wide potluck next month to celebrate the official establishment of the new Historical Accuracy and Interspecies Cooperation Initiative. Everyone's invited. Bring a dish to share. After she left, the council sat in stunned silence. Finally, Councillor Zix Prime spoke. Should we try to stop them? Vexthal looked at the remaining cookies on his plate, thought about the simplified tax codes and streamlined bureaucracy, and considered the possibility of really good coffee becoming a regular part of his life. Stop them from what? He asked. Making the galaxy a better place while claiming they were always doing it? I'm not even sure that's a problem anymore. But they rewrote history and improved it in the process. Sometimes, Vexthal said, reaching for another cookie. The best solution to an impossible situation is to let someone else fix it while you pretend it was always their job. 6 months later, the Galactic Council officially recognized the Terran Historical Preservation Society as the official keepers of galactic history. The humans accepted the position with characteristic grace, immediately establishing the department of making sure this doesn't happen again, and the Bureau of Why Can't We All Just Get Along. And throughout the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, the most common response to any crisis became a simple question: what would the humans do? Usually the answer involves snacks, common sense, and the kind of stubborn optimism that could turn erasure from history into an opportunity to write a better future. The humans had won by doing what they always did, refusing to accept that anything was impossible, and making everyone else believe it too.